Um, I'll briefly introduce our guests at the top table. To my immediate right, Rassie Erasmus, Mark Alexander, and Jacques Nienaber. I will now hand over to Mr. Alexander, who will make the announcement. Mr. President.
Thank you. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. On behalf of the South African Rugby Union, it gives me great pleasure to announce the Springbok coaching team for the period 2020 to 2023. Firstly, apologies for the late announcement. I know we promised that we would do it before the end of December, but due to unforeseen circumstances, we only completed our paperwork late this week. So the coaching staff are Rassie Erasmus, Director of Rugby, Jacques Nienaber, Head Coach, Vangelis Stick, Assistant Coach, Dion Davis, Assistant Coach, Felix Jones, Assistant Coach, Dan Heman, Scrum Consultant. That is the coaching team to take us to the World Cup in 2023.
Thank you, Mark. If I can hand over to Rassie. Rassie, just a few words in terms of your strategic thinking.
Afternoon, everybody. John, I want to just echo what the President said there. Apologies for only announcing it so late in January. Obviously, we have got a rugby mad country, and a lot of things has been in the media and speculations, and a lot of them was right and correct. So, yes, sometimes it's a great thing to have all the support there. But unfortunately, we had to finalize Felix's contract and a few other things, and that's the reason for only being able to announce it today, because we wanted to make sure that everybody was signed and sealed, and you know, we can be sure when we announce the coaching team. Just briefly to explain why we went the route we went. I won't go on too long. If I can start by the relationship between the director of rugby and the head coach. I'm not going to go into detail about Jacques. I'm sure you'll have some questions around that. Everybody knows when I was appointed as director of rugby last year, 2 years ago, it was basically to work with Alistair and Neil Powell and Paul and the junior Springbok coach and all the different programs, the women's rugby and so on, the referees. But then obviously when Alistair moved on, the focus was solely the Springbok team and the World Cup, and obviously that's what we focused on. We all realized that it's impossible to just do both jobs. And just briefly, by appointing a head coach now, it will definitely free up myself to think a little bit, obviously more strategic. When I say strategic, I'm definitely going to have an administrative job where I just sit in the office. If I can just maybe give you simple examples. My role, for example, was if I can take the junior Springboks, it wouldn't be for me to help the junior Springboks win. That would be the job of the junior Springbok head coach. My job there would be for the junior Springboks to be holistically developed, and when they come out on the other side of the junior Springbok campaign, they must be better equipped to be better Springbok rugby players. My job with the SS7s team, the men's team, I wouldn't have the knowledge to be a better coach than Neil Powell, Paul Delcourt, Marius Koeman, those guys. They are the knowledgeable guys and the best coaches in South Africa. My job there would be to help them get the right players released for the Olympics, for the different tournaments. So in every department, the technical department, I know a bit about the technical stuff, but that would be more to make sure that the systems we have serve, what we want to achieve on the field, and that those systems are aligned, that we don't only win the World Cup every 12 years. So I can go on with the referees department. There's certain KPIs. I can't tell referees how to referee, but the way the referees plan, the game model we want them to referee, and how they referee and how they integrate with us, that will be one of my KPIs there. So in short, obviously then my responsibility with the Springbok team is for the Springboks to win, and that will stay the same. Yes, having a guy like Jacques with all his experience there, I will still be part of the management team. I will be there in the coach's box with him. I will be accountable if the Springboks don't win. I will be part of the team selection when we select the team, but having him there, working more on the day-to-day things, the operational things, and giving me some free time to think more about the strategic things that I just mentioned. There's obviously a lot more that I just mentioned. That was the basic thinking about this whole system. I'm sure you'll have some questions on that, and I just want you guys please to understand, I think we've built up a good relationship over the last 2 years, and I'd like to be open and honest about everything that we do. I don't think one must label all directors of rugby in all countries the same. In the one in South Africa is not an administrative job listed in the office. We've got great GMs there doing budgets and strategic documents and stuff like that. Mine is to use our rugby IP and rugby expertise to align the different departments to make sure that the teams play the best on the field, not to sit there and be a pen pusher all the time. So hopefully that makes sense, but I'm pretty sure you'll have quite a few questions.
Thank you, Rassie. Jacques, congratulations on your appointment. Maybe just a few words on your appointment and the way forward.
I think to reiterate what both Mark and Rassie has said, I think the main thing for us is probably continuity. And continuity for me will be the same, will be to drive the strategic goals we had when we came over in 2018, which Rassie has spelled out numerous times, which is probably, he mentioned it again, is for us to win and keep on winning consistently. And but with winning, the big things will be to focus on transformation, to focus on creating squad depth, and to focus on giving experience to players, to fill a pipeline that will continuously drive getting good results for the Springboks and keep on winning.
Thank you very much. We'll now take questions from the floor. Please indicate. Jacques.
Rassie, just quickly, Deon Davids' position, what is that exactly? And Felix's position, are they, have they got titles or whatever at this stage?
Yeah, sure. No, I'd like to explain that. So obviously, if you just briefly look at if you summarize the whole change, if you look continuity-wise, the only change actually that happened, if you actually can remember that Swayze was last year, Swayze the Brand was the consultant, then actually the only swap in this management team is actually Deon Davids coming in for Matthew Crawford. That's the only swap. Of course, Don Nienaber is the consultant and Swayze was a consultant last year. So that's actually, I think, the first World Cup cycle where the only swap has been one managed forward coach for another forward coach. So Deon will be assistant coach looking after the forwards, but I will coach with him like I did with Matthew Crawford on the morning, the breakdown. Myself and Deon is not the sharpest at scrum time, so that's where we have Don Nienaber involved. So Don will be the scrum consultant looking after the scrums. I think it's an ideal situation where a scrum coach is not a guy who can sit in the office and become better as a scrum coach. So I think for Don working with the Bulls, and especially two props like Lizo and Trevor, which he's done a marvelous job last year, and those two guys who's probably going to be in the mix come test matches in July and later in the year. You stay cutting edge by coaching if you're a scrum coach, and you look after the scrums. Myself will work with you on line-outs, morning breakdown, those kind of things. Zondile will, again with Felix, look after the back line, the skills, the high ball, those kind of things. Felix, we've got a specific focus. We are realistic in the fact that overseas there's currently more than 400 South African players playing overseas, but realistically there's only 10 to 20 that's really performing still at test match level that we're really looking at. He will have a vital role. He will be based in Dublin. Part of his job description and KPIs is to service those players for us, that when they actually come into camp, that they are fully on board, and what our plan is, what their conditioning is like, that they don't come in here and we have surprises about they're not on par and totally aligned with what we want. We can't have alignment camps with them like we have our local franchises. So Felix totally understands the big role he has to play. He's a big friend and coaching partner with myself and Jacques. We coach with him 2 Heineken Cup competitions, 2 Pro 14 competitions at Munster. We understand each other and we understand his work ethic. So we've taken a bold step that we do have a coach in a high performance system to make sure that players who still at their peak and who's hungry and wants to play and inform, that we make sure when those players are eventually selected for South Africa, Felix must make sure when they rock up here in camp that they are where we want them to be. That I leave somebody. No, those are the coaches.
Thank you, Rashid. There's a question aside from Sim to Rashid.
Given that the announcement was supposed to be made in December, the question is, was there ever a consideration of advertising the post to see what kind of names from internationally came into the hat simply because it's the world champions, or was the sort of the lure of alignment too great?
I'm pretty sure Mark will have an answer on that. I think being involved with the team and not just the last 2 years, and knowing where the team is and what the player corps is and the challenge we'll have, we had to do what's the best for the Springbok team and not the best for other individuals and other people. We unfortunately had to do what's the best for the Springboks, and the best for the Springbok currently is continuity without big disruptions, with a plan that we're currently following on the field that are successful for us, the players that we have. And I'm sure there's somebody out there that can probably do a better job. If you've got the money and you do 6 or 7 months of research and you find the right guy, as I'm sitting here personally, and after I've presented to the steering committee and the various leadership groups, I'm fairly convinced, and I think if you ask most of the players, you guys might do the exercise and actually ask the guys. I'm pretty convinced that all players, all coaches who's currently in the Springbok management team would 100% agree with me that the right coach to take us forward with continuity and the way we want to play and did play, there wasn't a need to advertise.
Basically?
Firstly, congratulations, Jacques. I was going to ask you a question in respect. It's one thing becoming a world champion, it's another thing staying on top. Is there a lot of pressure on you taking over the reins now and taking this thing forward? And Rashid, firstly, congratulations to you as well, winning another award, Coach of the Year against a great honor and a great pleasure sitting in your midst today, sir. I'm going to ask you, Rashid, if I look at the squad that you put for the World Cup final, sir, and my math is not that good, but knowing what the players are overseas based now, is that the way forward for SA Rugby? Is that part of your thinking, or what is the message to players still locally based? Are those international players still part of your bigger picture?
Thanks, Percy, for the award thing. Mark, do you still want to add on something?
I'll get finished with Percy, then I'll come to that.
Thanks. Percy, if I can take 2 minutes on this one, and excuse me if it takes a little bit long. I think the reality is the following. I think really we've got great pathways, and we'll get a chance somewhere this year to explain to you what we're doing from under 14 level right into SA schools and how we bring with our elite players development pathway, players through the system. I think if you compare our systems currently, for example, with the English system and the New Zealand system and difference in the French system, if you think, for example, what Eddie Jones are currently are confronted with, they've got a wonderful system where the elite player development pathway is fantastic. England is very competitive at the Junior World Cup, where our junior Springboks are playing. But then when they get into the Premiership, it's owned by wealthy owners, and 70% of the players are foreign based. We've got 400 players playing abroad. So out of the 12 Premiership clubs, he's got 7 number 9 scrum halves who's not English qualified. He's got fly halves who's not English qualified. So you've got the French players who's currently doing very well at junior level, but then the French league, the top league, is filled with South Africans and New Zealanders. So for the French national team to do really well is extremely tough. So I guess on the one hand, we can moan about it, but on the other hand, we've got almost 3 or 4 maximum of his foreign players playing in our local competition. So I guess you can see it as a negative, but I see it as a positive in the following way. Is that all the youngsters coming through, the Fassies, the German-Bosches, the Libbocks, the Nahombas, the Jaden Hendricks, there is some Alanis, there is such a tremendous bunch of talent coming through now. When Bakkies Botha left, even Etzebeth came through. Eben left, now J.D. Stiekeling and Salman Murat came through. It just always happens like that because we've got a wonderful pipeline. Yes, we do lack experience at Super Rugby level. We've got to be boldly honest with you. If you probably take just the 20 top players who's currently playing in Europe and you just put a 10 million rand salary amount on them. Currently the overseas-based clubs are paying 200 million rand for our top players, but they're available for us. And all our local players are available for us. And the players who's playing there is taking up spots for England and the French team for their national teams. So, on the one hand, it's probably not great for us, our local competitions, but the youngsters are coming through. I thought it was a wonderful exhibition of exuberance, fast speed, running game on Saturday at the Marvel. Yes, it will be tough when they play in Super Rugby, but I did a comparison the other day with the Super Rugby coaches when we had a meeting. There were 61 players moving around between our Super Rugby franchises in and out, but there were 58 in New Zealand moving around between the Super Rugby teams. So, there's always players moving in and out. So, it might be a concern, but on the other hand, we might have the best of both worlds, which, depending on from which angle you look, for the national team, I don't think it's the worst.
Jacques, you want to respond to that?
Thank you very much. From my side, obviously to get on top is tough. To stay on top is also tough, and it would be a nice challenge for us. And when I listen to the players and when I went around with the franchises, everybody understands that if they can accept that from the players' point of view, from the management point of view. So we won't do things differently. We will still continue doing the things like we do. But it will be a nice challenge and something that I'm obviously looking forward to try and keep that continuity and that sustained culture of winning within our team.
Okay. Can we move on?
You wanted to respond to this? I think one of the key things for us was continuity and succession. And when Rusty was appointed 2 years ago, that was the key principles we had in place since then. What happens every 4 years, we go out, we advertise, we do new coaching, we change all the systems, a lot of confusion, it takes a long time for the players to settle down, and we go through this ever since we entered the World Cup. This will be the first time that South Africa will have continuity after the World Cup. We'll continue with both of the players in there, we'll continue with the same systems, and we didn't want to advertise. Large organizations don't advertise when they replace BC, because they've got somebody in the system that's working as well, and that's what happened now. Jacques was there in the system, and so like Stick and the other guys, they might be the next coach in the next 4 years. We want succession and we want continuity in rugby. South African rugby for too many years, every 4 years goes to the pain of appointing a new coach, new systems. It takes 4 months before you can get something. And the time, we don't have the time on our hands. We got in July, we have Scotland arriving, and in 500 days time, we left the British and Irish lines. We need to work swiftly and get a team in place and make sure we have that continuity and have the team working within the system.
Rusty, I just want to go back to the contracting, the new contracting model which you spoke about again. I think it was the beginning of 2019.
Yes.
When does that come into effect? Especially, particularly as it applies to somebody like a Warren Whiteley, who's of course now sort of out for the whole of the season. How does that affect him? And just remind us really just about that new contracting system and when it takes place.
Yes, I'm actually very excited about the new contracting system. Again, as part of the more strategic thinking side of my role as director of rugby, which, if I can briefly explain practically, if you guys can understand this, and bear with me if I speak a little bit too much today. But when you're in camp, and you sit for 4 or 5 hours and you plan the next day's training session on the numbers, on the tackle shields, and how many players are going to be there, and who's going to do what drills. Those kind of things will be handled by Jacques now. When a player comes to him, so that takes up a lot of time, and I will be freed up from that now. But I will still sit every night with them in camp, and we'll go through what is the strategy, how we're going to beat these guys. What is the game plan? We'll sign it off together. Those kind of things. So I'll be still full on hands-on. And to give you an example, with the contracting model is one of the things that I could put a lot of time into now. A simple example, we had 14 contracted players which we as Sarl owned, which we seconded to the franchises, which they can use, and then we had a say over them how many minutes they could play to be ready for Rugby Championship or the June Test matches, which is now the July Test matches. Now, we accepted the fact that we can't keep the Eben benches in $100 just because we don't have 15 million rand. We've got a budget of 60 million or 70 million. If we keep 5 players, our budget is finished. And now we're allowing those guys to play for our players, but we can still pick the best of them. But now with our money, we've currently contracted 85 players. We're contributing to 85 players. So we still got a few bucks left, and we are expecting that number to go up to 120 players. So that means that over 120 players, I've sat with all the Super Rugby coaches, again being freed up because of what Jacques doing, franchise visits and coaching and all of those kind of things. I've sat with most of the coaches. We've discussed every single of those 85 players in terms of conditioning, game time, nutrition. Our nutritionist goes around to talk to the players. Our SNC coaches goes around. So the plan is for the high performance program at the different franchises, the 4 Super Rugby franchises, and obviously then the Pro 14 franchises for those hopefully 120 players which we are contributing. We've got an individual agreement on every single player. So if you contribute to a player at Province X and the player is there, we say, listen, we are contributing, but for us contributing, there must be 2 SNC coaches. We must know, I'm currently desperately trying to get a sponsor for all the franchises on the same GPS system, all of them are on the same athlete management system, all of them are on the same, all the technical stuff, so we can actually compare players and training sessions with each other. So those are the kind of things that the new contracting system helps us a lot with. So it's fully in swing. All the franchises are bought in, and all the Super Rugby coaches are really helping us a lot, and we've had no resistance at all.
Chris, and then Marshall.
Jacques, are you hopeful that the Springboks will not have a after World Cup bubble here in 2020?
Obviously, my job will probably determine on that. I think it's probably, if you think about it, we lost one in 12 years ago, and the big challenge for us is not to get that bubble loss again, to get that continuity, the work rate, still working hard, having a consistency in terms of how we prepare during a week, how we talk to the players while they're at their franchises without interfering with what they are doing at the different franchises. So that will be our challenge. Do we have the answers? Currently I don't. I think this is the way we should go, because I've never been in this position where you won a World Cup and now you have to build and have continuity. So I don't even think the players will have the answers, because the only previous player that has won a World Cup is Frans Steyn. He's the only one. So he's the only one that can probably tell us, listen, this is how I try to do it. So as a group, we will have to figure it out as we go on.
So 2 questions, one for Rassie, one for Jacques. Jacques, you said you're not looking to change much. Continuity is the big thing, but it is the first time you're going to have a different job title. Does that weigh on you at all, A? And B, your director of rugby has said that he will still be quite hands-on. He's going to sit with you every night at camp. Nobody likes a backseat driver. Are you aware that you guys would have to perhaps relook your professional boundaries and relationship boundaries going forward? That's your question. And then, Rassie, you spoke about you wanting to focus on the holistic development of players and the different feeding streams. And I thought immediately of comments made by John Plumtree last year sometime, where he spoke about how once South Africa really comes to terms with harnessing all of the talent it has in all of the far-flung places, and that players like Mapimpi is not a once-in-a-lifetime shot in the dark, as it were, that South Africa and the Springboks will continue to be very difficult teams to win. Is that the kind of belief that you have in mind when you look at your strategy to develop the game going forward and players?
Yes, I think Rassie mentioned it, innovation in terms of the appointment of Felix, thinking a little bit out of the box. I think if you look at how Rassie does things from when we work together, sitting on a roof, he was innovative in 2005. So, like I said, the director of rugby role isn't the traditional one that normally will fit. This is an office job type of thing. And again, my head coaching role wouldn't be the traditional. I would not like the director of rugby must sit in the office. He mustn't get involved. And I think that's probably the weird thing for people looking at this. Can you say working relationship? But I mean, it's something that we've discussed at length and that we've talked about, and we've worked together for a long time. I'm honestly, it would be foolish of me not to tap into Rassie's expertise. If you think about it, I've been in a coach's box twice, once with the Swiss with the Sunwolves and the other one was with Rassie at the Barbarians. And the funny thing, Rassie will go, job, and I'll sit next to him and the coach will say, yes, Rassie. So that would be something new for me, being in an environment of a coach's box. So it would be foolish of me not to use Rassie's expertise there, his eyes, his thought process, what does he look at? So it would be from the outside, it would look quite weird, almost like the 6-2 split bomb squad thing looked when people look at it. Yes, that's unconventional. They just you see the unconventional maybe mistakes that can happen, but then at the end of the day, everybody went. Now it's a common thing if you look at rugby in Europe. A lot of teams are using that tactic now. So I think it's a little bit out of the box. But we quite aligned in terms of that and quite excited about the new innovation.
Oh, Rassie.
Just to answer you on making sure that players are holistically developed, I think I would love one day to get a chance to explain to you and get the managers of the different phases of, we've got from under 14 to under 16, we've got elite player development level 1, elite player development level 2, and then elite player development till SA schools, where we've got the academy, we've got junior Springboks. We are planning to get SAA going, SAA rugby going, then it's Springboks, So there's a whole pathway that's really well planned. But to be honest with you, and in that system from under 14, there's scouts. And when those scouts, there is interventions, being it a black boy who doesn't have access to nutrition or to a gym, or just normal mentors. A lot of it's dependent on money. I'm not 100% sure how deep I will go into that, because I really want to stay cutting edge with the rugby side of things. And I know Mark and Yuri and the commercial department will help us a lot, because there's really a few projects that's critical for us to get funding, like women's rugby, technical, to get the right GPS systems, again with the elite player development pathways. If you want a boy who's really talented at under 15 level to really be holistically developed, and have a mentor, you have to have some resources to put those things around those boys. So the rugby programs and stuff I will drive. So yes, you're 100% right. We lose a lot of those boys because we just currently identify them, but then we don't actually intervene and help them that when they actually get to under 18 and they get to SA schools, they lack, they never open a laptop. So they feel inferior when they have to sit there and do analysis, or they don't have a nutrition advantage which the other guys have. So I wouldn't be the guy that can have the knowledge to go how to do that, but I think we can help with the structures together for those guys to have access to that. And I think you're 100% right. The moment we tap, currently I think we tap into 40-50% of the talent out there, and the success would be if we can tap into 100% of that. So I agree.
I've got a couple of questions. One for Jacques. Jacques, how would you respond to people that have called into question your head coaching experience or lack thereof? A lot of people have said, you know, you haven't been head coach before. Does it factor into what you're going to do? Are you going to have it in your mind at all at any point? And the second question is for Mark Alexander. Mr. President, are you happy with the makeup of the coaches as far as transformation is concerned at Super Rugby level, where Super Rugby and Pro 14 for that matter, where we're not seeing black coaches actually get the opportunities at the highest domestic level, and therefore they can't then make the step up to where Jacques has made today?
People that, the people that say, listen, it's a massive risk in terms of hasn't been a head coach before. What can I say? They're probably right. You know, I can't argue. I haven't been a head coach before, and but I can tell you that obviously I'm not stupid. I understand that's a risk. It's a risk for me, and it's both. It might be a risk for me. It might be a risk for the organisation, and we have discussed between each other how are we going to manage that. That's the only thing we can do, you know, is to try and manage that. But obviously, when Rassie asked me, "Are you? I believe you the right guy to go forward," I wouldn't have accepted if I don't think I can do it. I think if you go back, me starting from being a physio, going into SEC, going into defence coach, I'm the type of guy that like new challenges. So for me, I'm quite keen on this. You know, I wouldn't have accepted if I don't think I would make a success out of it. Otherwise, I would have said, listen, just keep me where I am. I'm comfortable with being a defence coach and an assistant coach. So from my perspective, I can't convince people that doubt to believe. My results will probably will have to do that, and the challenge will come when we play Scotland in June, July. That's probably the only thing I can say about that.
To respond to you about the Springbok coaching team and the management team, I'm quite happy with the makeup. We're not happy with the makeup of our franchises. You know, all the coaches that have come through over the years have come through our system, and I want Rassie just to take you through a couple of names that came through the SARO system. We have to put pressure on our franchises, the Pro 14 and the Super Rugby franchises, because they're not bringing through the coaches that are available out there. And I'll ask Rassie just to give you a couple of names of the players that we brought through the SARO system.
Sure, thanks, Bob. Yeah, I think that just to latch on to Jacques there, on the question that was asked to Jacques, I think, and again I would ask you guys maybe one-on-one when you talk to any player, any coach that Jacques has coached with, and any player he has coached before, as a friendly challenge or a study or occasion, go and ask a question. What has Jacques' role been previously in all teams in terms of what is done in the team environment? I think you'll be pleasantly surprised his responsibility and what he has done there. So that's why I'm very confident that he'll step up and do the job there. So it's a very valid question, and I guess the guy that the only thing that will count is when we run out there against Scotland and get the results. But it's a very valid question. But to lay away your fears or worries, I can guarantee you he's done a lot of head coach roles whilst being in the Springbok environment. To get back to your question on transformation in terms of coaching and coaches coming through, I take you a few examples. Every single coach that's been pushed through to Super Rugby level, SARO has used. When Alistair Coetzee was pushed through to Super Rugby level and eventually made it to Super Rugby level, SA Rugby took him up and used him and appointed him as coach. When Dion Davis was pushed through to Super Rugby at the highest level, SA Rugby took him in, used him as a coach. When Zwantile Stick did relatively well as an under-19 coach and won the thing, SA Rugby took him into the system, used him. So whenever a franchise or a province pushed through or not delivered. That's a better word. Delivered, any coach of colour at that highest level. SA Rugby actually took him on board and gave that guy an opportunity. Some of the other coaches which we had in the system, we then eventually went from us down to the franchises. Great examples is guys like Joey Mogali, who was the French coach of the under-20s, was eventually appointed at the franchises. There's the two SA schools coaches now, the one which we appointed, the one is now appointed at the Sharks, the other one is appointed at the Lions. So, Bafana Nzleku, who's the defence coach of the SA under-20, I'm pretty sure it's a matter of time before he gets one of the Super Rugby franchises. Hayden Goed, which is a coach, he was the analyst, he became the skills coach at the Bulls. Paul True was the sevens coach and he got the Stormers. I think one of their skills coaches there. So unfortunately, I can't say unfortunately, so the first thing is whenever a coach comes through the franchise structures, every single time when a coach got through there, we took that coach into SA structures and used him, like Dion and Sticks and Alistair and so on. We would like to see more coming through. We unfortunately don't have control over that, just like we can't tell them who to appoint as CEO or as, that they run their own franchises. I know, while talking to the coaches, and if you look at the Sharks team of all the boys coming through there, they are really committed to transformation. But I agree with you, the head coaches does not currently reflect transformation there, and that does make it tough for us to get guys into the national coaches, because just the pipeline is a little bit messed up now. So yes, that's the situation where we're going.
Thank you. Before we wrap up, Percy, one more question in English, and then we go over for an Afrikaans summary. Okay?
Just a question on the 50-man side. Obviously, in the Olympic year, how important or are you guys keen on winning a medal for South Africa in Japan again? And do you think we can win champions in Japan?
Yes, Percy, we're full on with that. I sat with the Bulls CEO today on two of their players to see in which tournaments we can. I sat with Neil and Marius and Paul last week to see their needs and how many tournaments players must play to be ready for the Olympics. I chatted to the Bulls today, I chatted to the Lions yesterday, and see can we get Kwaha back into the system to be available there. I chatted to John Dobson on the Rowan and Severus and Natla. So as I say, as director of rugby, I can't tell Neil Coach Neil Powell how to coach. He's the knowledgeable guy, him and Paul and Marius. But my job as director of rugby is there to make sure that the best players, the pipeline is available for Olympics. So Olympics is one of our pinnacle events this year. Pinnacle events this year is obviously all the Springbok test matches, number one, and then Olympics, junior Springboks and women's sevens trying to qualify on the circuit, and then obviously the women's 15-man code getting ready for next year's Women's World Cup, which is in New Zealand. That's basically the pinnacle events, which some is just there for us to really have solid performances, some is for gold medals, some is to qualify, and then the Springboks is to try and stay number one in the world.
Kort op zijn Afrikaans. Percy?
Against by the Afrikaans. Die uitdaging is voor jou om op boord te bly as die nummer 1 land in die wêreld. En om die Springbok weer as 'n seksuele te is daar uitdaging groot te doen. En as die sport is Afrikaans weer, ek gepraat van jy gaan 'n hands-on en afrigter wees. Ek dink kort, wat gaan jou verpligtinge wees? Alexander.
In Afrikaans.
Ja.
Ja, dit gaan 'n groot uitdaging wees. Dis moeilik om nommer 1 te raak in die wêreld. En baie moeilik, en ons het dit nou reg gekry. Ons groot uitdaging gaan wees om deur ons prosesse die kontinuïteit in ons prosesse te behou en om hard te werk om daar te bly. Dit gaan ons grootste uitdaging wees en dis 'n uitdaging waarna ons baie uitsien.
So dan weer vra, jy staan so business spreekies van gaan dit nog jou eerste projek wees en die ander nog die eerste uitdaging assignment in Skotland?
Nee, verseker ons is tans besig om kontakpunte te maak met die Super Rugby afrigtingsspanne vir verskeie redes, net om en ek moet sê, hulle is ongelooflik ontvanklik vir ons en hulle gee vir ons toegang tot alles en hulle was ongelooflik laas jaar in 2018. So ons is nog steeds besig met dit en is glad nie in 'n raadgewende hoedanigheid nie. Soms elke span het 'n ander benodig, het 'n ander benodigheid van ons af. Party wil informasie oor hoe ons die spanne geroteer het. Party wil informasie oor hoe ons analises doen. Party wil informasie hê oor die verdedigingsstelsels. So wat ook al hulle behoefte is en is nie te sê dat ons die antwoorde ken nie, maar ons is oop en openlik oor hoe ons dit doen en dan kan hulle besluit hoeveel van dit wil hulle inkorporeer of nie inkorporeer nie. En baie keer as dit so gaan, is die grootste leer wat jy kry is, weet jy, ek's nog op die regte pad. En selfs al is dit daai bietjie kan ek maar sê confidence is dit goud werd.
As ek vra jy sê ek dink Engels nog is baie hands-on coaches. Wat voel jy uit jou dan jou titel? Wat gaan jou prioriteite wees daarvoor?
Ja, presies. Ek wil weer verduidelik want ek is 100% seker en ek weet weer eens, dit is nie wat enige iemand met sy Afrikaanse woord kwaad wil of malicious is nie, maar ek weet daar sal vrae wees en daar sal gaan vrae wees van wie is nou eintlik die hoofcoach en wie is verantwoordelik. Ek weet dit gaan gebeur, ek weet mense gaan daaroor praat, ek weet ek is doodseker. En ek gaan weer probeer dit verduidelik want dit is regtig eenvoudig. En ek en Jacques saam van 1990 af van die weermag. Jy weet so ons verstaan mekaar. Ons debatteer goeders, ons doen wat die beste is vir Springbok rugby. So net soos ek en Matthew praat het laas jaar die mauling saam gedoen het. Hy het nie die mauling gedoen nie. Ek het die breakdown saam met hom, hy het die scrum saam gedoen. So ek gaan definitief saam met sit in die coaches meeting. Ons gaan saam beplan. Jy weet scrums funksioneer nie sonder lynstaan en lynstaan funksioneer nie sonder attack nie. Attack funksioneer nie sonder defense nie. Defense funksioneer nie sonder breakdown nie. So jy weet en om al daai goedjies bymekaar te taai, ons is baie gelukkig om hom as 'n qualified conditioning coach, as 'n qualified fysioterapeut en as een van die beste defensive coaches in die wêreld en dan die laaste 6-7 jaar het hy ongelooflik baie rolle as head coach vervul in baie van die spanne saam met wie ek met hom al was. Maar yes, ek is verseker, as ek voel die mauling is nie goed nie, gaan ek instep en as ek saam met hom sit en ons doen team selection, gaan ons dit rugby's discuss en tot ons die beste kry vir die Springbok span. En sonder dat voordat ons begin baie stryd daaroor en vra, as die Springbok nie wen nie, stop die bak by my. Jy weet, want ek het ons voorgelê dat dit die coaching staff moet wees en aan die leierskap en ek gaan ons deel wees van die strategie en die beplanning en jy weet, ek help ons nie die Springbok coach en die bestuurspan rapporteer aan my en hulle verloor en weet, dan sit ons ek die fout gemaak het. So, dit is hoe hands-on ek gaan wees.
Okay, laaste vraag.
Rassie, jy het vir die jaar 'n paar keer gekies lekker van die begin oor die styl, presies op die styl wat jy gespeel het nie. Dit is soms beskryf as vervelig en ek weet eintlik moet jy nog almal doen van my. So, ek wil net weet, wie gaan besluit oor die styl van die Springbok op die bak? En sien jy dat jy dieselfde tipe van die emphasis op strike 5 en amper iemand op die rugby. En sien jy die toekoms dat alles nasionale spanne hy sal bestel speel?
Nee, ek dink nie ander nasionale spanne gaan ek die bestel speel nie. Weer eens, as ek kan sê, vir ons grootste pluspunt was dat ek weet die Leeu's weer as ek eers die nasionale spanne kan vergeet en eers praat oor die Super Rugby franchises. Ons groot pluspunt was om die Leeu's te kry wat almal die bal kon paas en hardloop. En dan die Sharks te kry wat individual X-factor gehad het en dan die Bulls gekry wat hy als kicking game gespeel het. So, jy soek eintlik 'n klomp ouens by mekaar wat klomp verskillende goed kan doen en dan kan jy eintlik tussen verskillende gameplans rondspeel. So, nee, ons gaan definitief wil hê die junior Springbokke moet presies speel soos die Springbokke en die SA skole moet presies speel soos die Springbokke en ons sal wel wil hê al die fundamentele goeders soos tackle techniek, breakdown werk, hoe hulle skram, al die systemiese goeders moet dieselfde wees, maar die tactiek hoef definitief nie dieselfde te wees nie. Dan die manier waarop ons speel, dit was nooit een persoonsbesluit nie. Ons het ongelooflik baie koppe gestamp, jy weet, dis in my Jacques, Sway, Stokke, Sticks, Felix, Matt, ons het ongelooflik, ons het baie keer kwaad vir mekaar geslaap en dan weer die volgende opgestaan en vrede gemaakt, jy weet, en dan die spelers ingekry. Elke ons coaches meeting was altyd ook vir elke liewe speler kon sy opinie aankom ligge, en dit was nooit dis rassiese idee hierdie of is Jacques idee nie, en dit gaan nooit verander, jy weet, dit gaan 'n oop sessie wees waar ons almal input gee van die spelers, jongste spelers tot die oudste spelers, so die World Cup tot in die World Cup final was nooit interesse so baie nie, dit was al die coaches het saam besluit, ons het die selectors daaroor gepraat, het met almal gedeel, en so ja, hoe die straks en nou is al definitief daai metode van besluitneming verander.
Thank you, Rassie. That then concludes our press conference.